Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar on Candy Planning Data Exchange. My name is Isak van Niekerk from the CCS office in Cape Town, South Africa. It's my pleasure to present you with this webinar. Today we'll be showing you how to exchange data between Candy Planning, also sometimes referred to as site plan. So when you hear the word site plan, it also refers to Candy Planning. And we're going to show you the exchange of data between SitePlan and the two most popular planning software, Oracle Primavera and Microsoft Project. Due to the large number of people logged in on this webinar, we will not be able to answer any questions during the webinar. But however, you can submit your questions during the sessions with the function provided, or you can send your questions via email to your local distributors. At the end of the webinar, we will collate these questions and send the answers to everybody that registered for this webinar via email. Please note that the webinar will be recorded and you will receive a link to download it. Also note that a webinar is held once a month for various Candy topics and should not be able to attend any of the webinars at a given time. Then please register for the webinar, as we will still entitled to receive a copy of the webinar. Right, having said all the admin stuff, let's get started. Okay, the most common question that gets asked when one transfers data is why, when a conversion is done, do we sometimes have differences between the result in the one software compared to the other? The best way to explain this is by looking at when you translate between languages. We're going to look if I can translate on Google. Where is it now? Let me just get to it. Right, let's look at the Google Translate. We're going to take a normal English phrase. Will the conversion always be 100% correct with accurate information when done? And let's translate that to another language, for instance. Let's make it Italian. Right, there's the Italian. Obviously, not all of us know Italian, so let's translate the Italian back to English to see what came into the Italian. So there we can already see that there are one or two words are slightly missing, but we are still getting the right information. Let's now take that and translate it to, say, Portuguese. There's our Portuguese, for instance. Let's translate the Portuguese back to English to see the result that actually came through in Portuguese. Again, slightly different, but still information is there. But let's now take that same phrase and translate that into some of our local languages. Let's say cosa. Right, there's the cosa. Let's translate the cosa back into English. And again, we can see that suddenly the translate is different. The message are still the same, but there's definitely different wordings than compared to the English. Right. Then lastly, let's take it to Latin. So you can see what happens when you translate to Latin. Okay, we translate that to Latin, and let's see what came into Latin via English. Let's try again. Let's take it from Latin back into English. This conversion is always 100% accurate, totally a different message than the original message. Now, the little exercise that we've done is just to show you that you will always have to check your information once it is being converted back to another software, either from Candy to Primavera or Microsoft Project, or vice versa. Let's have a look at how it is done, seeing that you know now what to check for. In this webinar, we will cover the following. The data exchange first from Candy to Primavera. How has that been done in Candy? to Primavera, and in the same, how has the process been done from Primavera to Candy. Then we'll also look from Candy to Microsoft Projects, and then from Microsoft Projects back to Candy. Right, let's start off with exporting Candy to Primavera. Now, this will be in a PowerPoint show, as it will highlight the actual what you have to do instead of a live measurement or live demonstration on Primavera, because the licenses is not on this computer for the webinar. Let's carry on. Export Candy to Primavera. Right. Before you export a program from Candy, make sure that everything is set up correctly. Make sure that your checks is done correctly, logic links and everything is correctly. Right. Go back to the program manager in Candy. Highlight the program that you want to export. Click on Tools. Select the Export menu. And then choose the version of Primavera that you want to export to. Right, there's 3 versions of menus to choose from. Version Primavera 6.7 to 6.8. 6.7 including money, that's the only version that we exclude the BOQ related information, especially only the money, and then export it to 6.8.3. Right, once you've done that, make your choice. Let's just have a look at which Primaveras can be exported and which cannot be yet exported. From Primavera 6.7 onwards up to 8.4, all that can be exported as an XML file and can be read by Primavera as an XML file when it goes into Primavera. However, if you've got a version 15.1 or later, up to 17.7, which was released in July this year, that XML file received from Candy can as yet not be imported into Primavera. Right, if you have linked the program to the BOQ, then the money information can be exported, but only for Primavera 6 release 7. No other versions can take the XML, the money inside the XML. Right, a message will come up, will tell you that it's linked, and will ask you, are you sure you want to export the money? And it will say yes. But that will only be if you've chosen the option Primavera P6 release 7, including the money. Right, once you've exported the XML file will be created. You save it to your destination of choice. Right, let's have a look at, before we import into Primavera, what gets exported and what does not get exported. As far as the program is concerned, the start date and the time now date will be exported. Multiple calendars with their holiday and workday exceptions will be exported. Summary headers as work breakdown structure will be exported. So the headers in Candy will become a work breakdown structure in Primavera. Activities, activity number and descriptions will be exported. The duration, start and end dates, as well as the precedent logic, the start to start, end to end, will be exported. Time now and actual dates, if there's progress, will be also exported. As mentioned before, for Primavera 6 release 7, the net amount will be exported as a number per activity in a user-defined column. The selling amount will be exported as a number per activity in a user-defined column. The net amount will also be exported as a P6 resource. So it will be exported both as a user-defined column as well as a P6 resource. And the same with the selling amount will be exported both as a number in the user-defined column or a P6 resource. Right, activity types. The special activity types that we have in Candy gets exported as follows. A contract start becomes a mandatory start in Primavera. A contract end becomes a mandatory end in Primavera. Target starts, target ends becomes start on or finish on or before. A B type or unlinked activity in Candy will become a start on constraint in Primavera. H types, that is marked in Candy for your curing activities, will become normal activities. However, they will have a universal calendar or 7-day calendar allocated to them inside Primavera. Time activities from Candy will go through as a normal activity with the same duration, but the links will be dropped because P6 hammock or level of effort, as it's called now, are linked differently. So these links have to be re-established inside P6 using the conventions as used by Primavera. An activity that's marked as an F type in Candy will be exported as a constraint as late as possible. V types, M types, and K types in Candy will go through as a normal activity, as Primavera does not have such type of activities. Right, let's look at what does not get exported. Any remarks, notes, or calculation sheets that you have in Candy will not be exported. There is no such space for Primavera in Primavera. Base programs and progress snapshots will not be exported. As mentioned before, the special types of activities will be exported differently, so take note of the hammocks or that will become level of efforts. Codes, any codes that you've allocated to activities in Candy, like zone codes, area codes, will also not be exported. Any time location data that you might have in Primavera, in Candy, apologies, will not be imported into Primavera, and obviously information and long lead schedules will not be imported into Primavera. Very important to note, no planning resources are exported and no estimating resources are exported from Candy to Primavera. As mentioned there before, below in the general, any other data that you might find in Candy that's not mentioned in the previous slide will not be exported, and the same for the BOQ data. If it's not mentioned on the previous slide, it will not be exported. Right, that takes care of the export. That's the creation of the XML file. Now, obviously, one needs to import the XML file into Primavera. Now, how is that done? It's done as follows. Inside Primavera, you will go and select the file. You'll select import, and then important to select Primavera PM or XML in brackets. Right. Click on the next button, browse for the XML file where you've saved it, and select next. Then it will ask you where do you want to import it. Choose the EPS where you want to import to, and select the action create new project. Right. Next, after you press the next button, you will be asked if you want to change your XML import configuration. The recommendation is leave it as it is, but if you want to, you can modify it. But take note that the data types must all be changed to update existing or insert new. Ensure that you have applicable user rights to allow any changes if you want to make these changes. Right, once you press the next button, if successful, you will get a message, progress completed successfully. Do you want to view the log file, yes or no? And it's up to you to see what has been imported and how it's been imported by checking inside the log file. Right, once you're in Primavera, open it up, schedule it or calculate it, and you'll see the information inside Primavera. Always go and check the dates, check your calendars. As mentioned in my little example with the translation, there might be differences, especially the more advanced functionalities being used in Candy or activity types, the more likely there will be some differences in Primavera that has to be checked and corrected inside Primavera. Also check your holiday exceptions in your calendars to make sure that it came through correctly. Right, important to notice, depending on your Primavera setting, the start lead in P6 can be the number of days from the start of a predecessor to the start of the successor, where in Candy, a start lead is the number of days of work done in the predecessor before the successor can start. This will definitely cause a difference in result when there is progress out of sequence and you are exporting a progress bar chart or a program to Primavera from Candy. The recommended checks that we recommend you do: contract starts or ends, make sure that the dates came in correctly, the target starts or ends, make sure that came in correctly. They are all exported as constraints inside Primavera. All the calendars are exported together with the holidays and the non-work days, but just make sure that it is set correctly in each calendar. As mentioned before, if a tile activity is used inside Candy, it will be exported as a hammock or a level of effort, as a normal activity, not a hammock or a level of effort. Apologies. And if you want the functionality of the hammock and the level of effort in P6, then you have to relink it based on the conventions used inside Primavera. Right, very important, note the disclaimer. As mentioned before, no conversion will be 100% correct, and you need to check to make sure that the information from Candy is the same as the information in P6 after you've done the conversion, and if necessary, you need to adjust if required. Right, that was taking from Candy to Primavera. Most likely, you want to bring in information from Primavera, the program that's already created in Primavera. You want to bring into Candy to link to the BOQ to get the budget forecast out inside Candy. So, what do you do in Primavera? The following. First of all, which versions of Primavera can we import into Candy? As we are in charge of the information that we can import, all the Primavera releases can be imported into Candy, including the latest Primavera version 17.7 that was released in July this year. Right, to check your version, make sure that go to your help file, select About, and make sure that your release is release 7 or later. Versions earlier than that is no longer supported by Primavera and therefore cannot be imported into Candy as well. Inside Primavera, open the program in Primavera that you want to export. Select the File menu, select Export. Right, an export dialog will open up. In the export dialog, choose Primavera XML, not Microsoft Project XML, but Primavera XML. Right, when you select the Next button, it will ask you which project you want to export. Select and ensure that the correct program is highlighted in the project name to be exported. Select the Next button. It will ask you, do you want to zip the file? You can zip the file, browse, and choose where you want to save the XML file. Okay, smaller zip file will be created, which can be then sent to the person that's got Candy on their machine. Click the Finish button and the conversion will be done. That XML file, that zipped XML file, can then be sent to the person that's got Candy on his machine and can be opened up inside Candy, inside the planning module, as follows. Go to the program manager in the job that you want to import the program into. Right, select the tools, select the import menu, select the general importer, and then browse for the XML file. Very important, obviously. First, unzip the P6 file before you want to import it. Right, once you browse for the file, highlight the unzipped XML file, select the open button, and the process will start. At the end of the process, an analysis display will show, and it will tell you what has been imported, how it's been imported, and if there's any problems encountered in the import, where we import conventions or we encountered problems that different convention that used in Candy, like for instance a start to finish link, we will tell you what has been ignored so that you can actually go and check inside Candy and fix it according to Candy's conventions used. Right, once it's in, go back to the program manager, highlight the program that we imported, open it up. We also recommend that for easy comparison, add the import reference column to the standard bar chart view, for instance, because Candy's activity number is 4 characters, where Primavera's activity number can be up to 20 characters. And Primavera's activity number is therefore copied or converted and put inside the imported reference column during the conversion process. Right, once the program opens up, you need to calculate, press your calculate button, right, and check the calendars, the holidays, and the activity dates. Notice the import reference will have the Primavera activity number for easy reference. You can also select a specific document that was created for a more detailed analysis of the imported data. So go back to your planning document manager. It's not there by default. Select the new document, select number 7, import tools, and select 7.1, import checker. This document will then open up with some default columns that will tell you the activities, the successes, leads and lags, imposed dates of any constraints that were imported. The import reference will be the activity or ID inside Primavera. And this is also a document to use to analyze and make sure that the dates and the constraints came in correctly from Primavera inside Candy. Right, let's highlight what gets imported into Candy from P6 first, and then we'll look at what does not get imported. As far as the program is concerned, from P6, we get the start date, the time now, or what is known as the data date in Primavera. Activity calendars, only the calendars used and allocated will be imported into Candy, including all the holiday exceptions. WBS codes, layouts are only imported, and they are imported as heading levels inside Candy. So a WBS will become a heading inside Candy. As far as the activity ID is concerned, in Primavera will be imported into the import reference column in Candy. Descriptions, duration, start and end dates, predecessors, successors, or precedents, logic will come in. If there's progress, the actual start, actual finish, and remaining duration comes in. Notice that we say it's not advisable because sometimes in Primavera they allow certain progress rules that is not allowed in Candy, like actual dates after the data date or remaining durations together with actual finish dates. If that is encountered during the conversion, Candy will ignore these rules. No base program are imported. Right, as far as activity types is concerned, if we just look at the types from Primavera, a task-dependent type will come in as a normal Candy activity. A resource-dependent activity will come in as a normal activity inside Candy. A start milestone will become a target start with a duration of 0. A finish milestone will become a target end inside Candy with a duration of 0. A level of effort, sometimes also referred to as a hammock, will come in as a normal activity with the same duration, start and end dates as in Primavera, but for obviously reasons, as mentioned before, the successors, predecessors will be ignored. A WBS summary in Primavera will come in as a normal activity inside Candy. Right, as far as constraint types is concerned, used in Primavera, what happens inside Candy? A constraint, a mandatory start will become a contract start in Candy. A mandatory end from Primavera will become a contract end in Candy. Start on, finish on will become both target start or target end. A start on or before, a start on or after will become a target start in Candy. A finish on or before, a finish on or after will become a target end in Candy. As late as possible will become an F-type in Candy, or will be converted as an F-type inside Candy during the conversion process. Right, what does not get imported from Primavera into Candy? First of all, only the WBS layouts are imported. They are imported as heading levels in Candy, and only 9 tree levels of WBS layouts are imported. No activity code layouts or no filtered layouts are imported into Candy from Primavera. No activity codes used in and defined in P6 are imported into Candy. No user-defined columns, additional user-defined columns created in Primavera are not imported into Candy. And no base program information are imported from Primavera inside Candy. As far as resources is concerned, no Primavera resources or any resource data like resource calendars are imported into Candy. As mentioned before, only planning data, as mentioned on the previous slides, are imported into Candy. No other planning data that I might have missed is imported. Again, we highlight the fact of logic differences between Candy and P6, depending on your P6 setting. A start lead in P6 is the number of days from the start of the predecessor to the start of the successor, where in Candy, it's the start lead is the number of days of work done in the predecessor before the successor can start. Okay, so therefore you cannot have a link with a start to start with a duration longer than the actual duration of the activity. This will obviously cause differences, especially if you import progress data and the progress is out of sequence. Some recommended checks. Constraints need to be checked. Make sure that it came correctly from P6 into Candy. So check the start dates, look at your imposed dates for each of the contract starts or end or target starts or ends. Only calendars used are imported, so make sure that the holidays and non-work days, although it's imported, make sure that it's set correctly. A level of effort or hammock is linked differently in P6, so it will come in as a normal activity. So if you wanted to work as a hammock or a tied activity inside Candy, you need to relink it inside Candy. And then important to note, leads and lags greater than 127 days are not allowed in Candy, are ignored during the import. Then important, once you come from Primavera into Candy, every imported program is added as a new program in the program manager, and it's not automatically linked to the BOQ, and so each activity in the new imported program must be linked manually to the BOQ every time you do an import. Again, we highlight the disclaimer that you must make sure that the information that's in Primavera, that check it with the information in Primavera after the conversion, and you need to fix it if not because of the different conventions used between the different softwares. Right, that takes care of the data exchange between Candy and Primavera and back. Let's look at Microsoft Project. Let's start off exporting Candy to Microsoft Project. Again, make sure that your program that you want to export from Candy is correctly linked with all its logic links and BOQ links that you want to export, although BOQ information is not exported from Candy into Microsoft Project at all. What gets exported? Right, the program start date, multiple calendars, holiday work days and exceptions, and in the summary headers we'll go through as indented task inside Microsoft Project. The activity numbers will be copied to the text 1 column in Microsoft Project for references. Activity description and duration, start and end dates, and as well as the logic will be exported to Microsoft Project. More detail on how the logic is exported to follow. Activity types, what gets exported. Special activity types, again, contract starts will now become a must start on in Microsoft Project. A contract end will become a finish no later than. Target start will become a start no earlier than, and a target end will become a finish no later than. A B type or an incompletely linked program in Candy will become a start no earlier than. A H type, like for instance your curing activities that you've allocated, will become a normal activity in Microsoft Project, and a 7-day calendar will be allocated to that activity. A tied activity in Candy will become a normal activity because Microsoft Project does not have such a type to our knowledge. And the F types, the V types, the M types, and the K type activities used in Candy will become normal activities inside Microsoft Project with the same durations and start dates. Let's look at what does not get exported. Any remarks, notes, or calculation sheets that is in Candy will not be exported. Any base program or snapshot histories or snapshots will not be exported. Special types we've mentioned before. Candy types will become normal activities. Any activity codes allocated to activities will not be exported. Time location data will not be exported. Information along the schedule will not be exported. And again, very important to note, no planning resources are exported, either from the planning module or if it was linked to the bill from the estimating module. Also important to note, as far as Microsoft Project is concerned, no BOQ link data are exported. And as I mentioned before, only the planning data mentioned in the previous slides are exported. No other planning data that there might be, it can be, that's not mentioned, will be exported. Right, the export process, how does that work inside Candy? You highlight the program that you want to export, you click on the Tools button, you click on Export, and you select Export a Microsoft Project XML. This XML will be specifically created for Microsoft Project. Right? You save the XML file where you want in the destination of your choice. A tip, if you want to send it to your colleagues via email, take the XML file and zip it. A big XML file of 10 megabyte might become a couple of kilobytes after zipped and can be easily sent as a zip file. Right, important, once you export, if you've used double links between activities, so between activity A and B, you use the start to start as well as a finish to finish link in Candy. That will be difficult when exported to Microsoft Project, as one of the links will get dropped during the export process. Okay, we will explain in detail more what happens with the dropping of the links. Right, if there's progress, it can be exported, but it's not recommended because when comparing back between Candy and Microsoft Project, especially on percentage complete, there will be differences as Candy and Microsoft Project will calculate percentage complete differently. And the same if you compare back to Primavera. Candy and Primavera calculates the percentage complete different than Microsoft Project does. That creates the XML file. Let's go and look at Microsoft, what happens in the Microsoft side of it. So we want to import the XML file into Microsoft Project that was created in Candy. So in Microsoft Project, you will say File and Open. And then very important, the default for Microsoft Project is MPP. But you have to go click on the drop-down menu in this dialog box and select the XML format, which is the last one on the list. Then you will be able to import that file, browse for that file. When you select it, from Microsoft Project will highlight the dialog box, the import wizard. You will choose import it as a new project and select the finish button. Right, the conversion will be done and it will be calculated. Now you need to check your dates. You need to check the calendars and the calendar holidays if that came in correctly. As mentioned before, the Candy activity number gets imported into the text one column for comparison between the two softwares. Right, logic differences between Candy and Microsoft Project. Again, we highlight a start lead in Microsoft Project will be the number of days from the start of the predecessor to the successor, whereas start lead in Candy is the number of days of work done, which will then cause differences when looking at especially progress exports out of sequence. Then very important to note, Microsoft Project does not allow you to link a predecessor task twice to the same successor. If you do it in Microsoft Project, you'll get a warning that it's not allowed. During the conversion, the start-to-start link is dropped, and this will definitely lead or might lead to differences between dates when comparing back to Candy. Right, so therefore there's a disclaimer that you must check once the information went from Candy to Microsoft Project. You must make sure that the information that is in Microsoft Project corresponds to the information in Candy. Right, to highlight the problems that you will encounter with Microsoft Project, especially when a double link is used. If you take an activity with start leads only, that's got start links only, no problem will be encountered during the conversion process. That same, if an activity has got an end flag only or end-to-end link, then the conversion to Microsoft Project will not have problems. However, if there is a start-to-start and an end-to-end link between activity A and B, then you might have a potential problem depending on the actual start-to-start and end-to-end link. The problems that you will encounter is as follows. If you've got a start link where the end-to-end is the driving link and the start-to-start has got a little elbow, not the correct term to use, but a bit some visual or visible reference. So that's not the driving link. When it goes through from Microsoft Project, if you compare activity A's dates, A and B, after conversion from Candy into Microsoft Project, it will still be the same dates, but the one link, or the start-to-start link, gets dropped. However, if the activity is linked as follows, like activity C and B, where the start-to-start link is the driving link and the elbow or the non-driving link is between activity is the end-to-end link. Then when it gets converted from Candy to Microsoft Project, the start-to-start link is dropped, and now suddenly the end-to-end link becomes the driving link. So therefore, your dates from activity D in Candy to activity D in Microsoft Project will become earlier because of the start-to-start link that gets dropped. It has to be dropped because Microsoft Project cannot handle double links between the activities. So when you do take Candy to Microsoft Project, the best advice could be just to use end-to-end links. Right, recommended checks to do. Contract starts and ends and target starts and ends are exported as constraints, as mentioned before. Make sure that they are set correctly in Microsoft Project. Calendars are exported with their holidays. Just double check and make sure that it is correct. And if you use the tile activity inside Candy, then that will come through as a normal activity and cannot be relinked, but because Microsoft Project, as far as our knowledge is concerned, or to the best of our knowledge, does not have tied activities. Right, important, Candy's activity number is copied into the text one column for comparison back to Candy. Again, note the disclaimer and that you must check your information after you've exported. It is your responsibility. Right, let's look at the scenario where a program is created in Microsoft Project and you want to import it from Microsoft Project into Candy for linking to the BOQ or to get the forecast out. Right, in Microsoft Project, you will select the file, you select Save As, and very important, do not save it as an MPP file, but save it as an XML file. So in the Save As type, you must click the drop-down menu and choose the XML format. And that format needs to be saved so that it can be imported into Candy. In Candy, you go to the job that you want to import the XML file from Microsoft into. Open up the Program Manager inside the Planning module. Select Tools, select Import, select the General Importer. Browse for the XML file. During the process of the conversion and importing, we will allow you to bring in 5 user-defined text columns that will be imported as text 1 to 5 inside Candy in the relevant columns. Select the 5 that you want to import. Only 5 will be imported. Right, if there is progress inside the Microsoft project, we will ask you if you want to import the actual dates, but we will also highlight the fact that progress, because of the convention differences between the software, might not be imported 100% correctly. If you choose to import the actual dates, after you said yes, you need to confirm the time now date or the status date as it's called in Microsoft project so that it can be calculated correctly in Candy. Right, after you imported the Microsoft project program into Candy, an analysis display dialog will open up and any problems encountered during the conversion will be displayed here at the bottom so that you can see what conversion problems has been encountered. Right, let's look at what gets imported. First of all, the program start date. All the calendars with their holiday exceptions, only the calendars used again will be imported. Summary headers will become indented tasks, or indented tasks will become summary headers inside Candy. Activity IDs, okay, goes to the import reference column in Candy. Descriptions, durations, start and end dates. And then important to note, Candy works in full days So all durations will get rounded to the full days. So a duration of 1.2 will become a 1-day duration, or a duration of 1.6 will become a 2-day duration in Candy. As Candy do not work in hours, minutes, it will convert that into full days only. The logic will come through, and then the 5 user-defined text columns, as you have selected, will come through. Progress, if you did select to import it, will come through, but as mentioned before, not recommended, as there might be differences. As far as activity types is concerned, a must start on will become a contract start inside Candy. A finish no later than will become a contract end inside Candy. A start no earlier than will become a target start. And the same with a finish no later than will become a target end inside Candy. What does not get imported? Any base programs in Microsoft Project, special task types from Microsoft Project, milestone marks, okay, will become in normal activities. Only 5 user-defined columns are imported, so if you've got more than 5, you must make your selection of which 5 you want to import. And then activities that's marked as, where the duration is marked as estimated, will not be imported, so it's recommended that you first unmark all the estimated activities and make the proper activity durations. Activity durations, as mentioned before, of portions of days will come through as a full day and rounded up or down using the 4-5 rule. No resources are imported from Microsoft Project, and no resource calendars also not imported from Microsoft Project. Once the XML file is converted and imported, it will display in the Program Manager. Highlight that program inside the Program Manager, open it up, and for easy comparison, maybe add the import reference column to your view, where the activity ID where Microsoft Project's activity ID would be copied into, so that you compare Microsoft easily with Candy's program. Right, once in Candy, press your calculate button to calculate, and notice that your activity ID is now in the import reference column. Compare your dates, compare your constraints, and make sure that everything came in correctly. If not, you need to highlight, adjust it to suit. Right, we've also got a special, for more detailed analysis, you can open up the import checker document created in your planning document manager by selecting the new documents, number 7, import tools, and import checker. Right, that will open up a document that looks like this, with all the successes, leads, the lags, imposed dates for the constraints, and also any problems encountered will be in the activity notes column for your reference. Very important, recommended checks, constraints are imported as contract starts or ends, target starts and ends, that's imported. Ensure that these constraints are set correctly. Calendars used inside Microsoft Project are imported with their exceptional days and non-work days, so make sure that it's imported correctly, double check that. The 5 user-defined columns can be imported. Activity ID is copied into the import reference column, and very important to note, leads and lags greater than 127 days are not allowed in Candy and therefore not imported. Very important disclaimer, due to the differences, it is up to you to check that the program that was imported corresponds with the program source where it was exported from. Right, again, once you've imported a program from Microsoft Project into Candy, it will be imported as a new program, and any links that you want with the BOQ need to be re-linked manually. that takes care of this webinar. If there's any questions, you can send it to your local distributors. A recording has been made. Thanks for your time.